Welcome back to my kitchen. It's Rabbi Finn and you're here for another Bereishit Bites. Every week I'm making something different relating to that week's Torah portion. This is from Bournemouth and Elstree United Synagogue, and this week is Parshat Chayei Sara, and we are going to be making bagels. Why? Well, I'll tell you a little bit later. Let's just recap the Torah portion. Our portion starts this week on a bit of a down note. Sara, the wife of Abraham, has died. Abraham has to go find somewhere to bury her. He finds the perfect piece of land, the cave of Machpelah, and he has to deal with this really dodgy guy called Ephron to get the field. He gets the field for 400 of the best silver pieces. Later on, he decides that his son Yitzchak needs a wife. So he sends his servant, who according to tradition is Eliezer, to go find a wife for his son, for Yitzchak. Eliezer's like, how on earth am I going to find somebody who's good enough to marry my master's son? He goes to a well. A well in those days was the equivalent to a pub nowadays. They didn't have any of those like fancy apps, so he has to do it the old-fashioned way. And he makes a prayer to God and says, God, let it be that the first person who comes along who says, I will give you some water and I'll give your camel some water, therefore showing that they are sensitive to both me and to my animals, that is going to be the person who I think you have chosen for my master's son, for Yitzchak. And lo and behold, Rivka comes along. She offers Eliezer some water and then offers to feed the camels some water. And Yitzchak and Eliezer thinks, yep, this is probably the one. Let's go meet the family. He goes meet the family. There's a whole discussion, there's a whole story. Look inside the Torah text, and he eventually gets to bring Rivka home to meet Yitzchak. And as they say, the rest is history, setting up the portion very nicely for next week. But before I tell you why it is we are making bagels, let me share with you a very short idea. It is well-worn tradition that originates in the Mishnah that there were 10 trials of Abraham. God gave Abraham 10 tests. What people don't necessarily agree on is what were those 10 tests. A lot of people will say that the 10th test, the most important test, the test which finally proved that Abraham was the perfect person to serve God, was the Akedat Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac that was being discussed last week. But Rabbeinu Yonah has a different approach, which is that actually the 10th test was not the binding of Isaac, but actually is the beginning of this week's portion where Abraham has to barter for the land to bury Sara. Why? Because this is the test of living with religion in everyday life. Abraham could have said, you know what, God has promised me the land. I'm speaking to God. I'm speaking to the creator of the world. I don't need to deal with you petty people. I'm not going to deal with you who don't believe. I'm not going to deal with non-believers. I'm going to treat you with disdain. And yet, Abraham, at a time of mourning, at a time of deep distress, has to deal with one of the worst people around at that time. Ephron, a scoundrel, a thief, someone who's just not nice, who is manipulative. And yet, throughout the Torah text, Abraham deals with him with courtesy, with kindness, and with respect, thus passing the test of living with religion, but in a world where people might not necessarily share those same beliefs, those same ideals. And I think this speaks to us because we're not going to get told by God to go sacrifice our children. But we are told by God to live in the normal world, to take our religious beliefs, our religious values, and interact with the world around us, but in a decent, kind way. Not in a way that we are better than anybody else, because we're not. But rather in a kind, charitable, respectful manner. That was Abraham's 10th test, and that is the test of living with religion in maybe a non-religious world. And that is a test that each and every one of us has to carry. Now, I said we are making bagels. Why are we making bagels? Well, it's a slightly morbid one this week. And it's the only connection I could find to food in the entire portion. If you can find a better one, please do message me or comment below. Bagels are traditionally eaten as part of a first meal when somebody has come back from burying somebody. Now, as I said, this week's portion starts off with the burial of Sara. So, if they had bagels back in those days, Abraham might well have come back and eaten a bagel. A bagel, because it is round, shows a circle of life. Other round foods are often eaten as well, for example, a boiled egg or lentils. But boiled eggs, well, they're quite easy to make, and lentils, well, we're doing them next week. So I've settled on bagels this week, so please get your ingredients ready and join me as we make bagels to celebrate Parshat Chayei Sara. So we're making bagels. Now I know what you're thinking, bagels are quite tricky to make, that's why I spend 50, 60, 70p going to a baker to buy a freshly baked bagel. But trust me, these bagels are super easy to make. They require a little bit of patience, a little bit of time, but not that much skill. Obviously, once in a while you're going to make a batch and it's going to turn out awful, but for the times that it works, trust me, it is absolutely amazing. We're going to make a recipe which will make 6 to 8 good sized bagels, depending on how hungry you're feeling. If you want to make more, just simply double up the recipe. You're going to need a large bowl, you're going to need some yeast, you're going to need some salt, you are going to need some strong bread flour. You don't want to use any other flour than strong bread flour because this has a higher protein content which will enable the bread to rise. You're going to want also a little bit of sugar and 300 ml of warm water. It can't be cold, it can't be boiling, it's got to be warm, about 40 to 45 degrees Celsius. So let's join with me, we're going to make some bagels. So to start off with, you want to put in 2 teaspoons of yeast. Once you've done that, you want 450 grams of strong bread flour. Add in a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of sugar. Always good to get your sugar first ready. Simple as that. Give it all a bit of a mix. And what you're going to do now is add in your warm water. I like to do about 2/3 of my waters to start off with. Give it a little bit of a mix. You'll see it starts to form together into a dough, and then add enough water so that you're able to make a shaggy dough mix. If it's too dry, add a bit more water. If it's going to become too wet, you're going to want to add a bit more flour. In total, you're probably going to put about 300 ml of water into your bowl. Baking depends on so many factors: the weather outside, the humidity, the quality of your flour, the temperature of your water. So if it's a cold day, go for slightly warmer water. If it's a hot day, go for slightly cooler water. Get your hand in and you want to try and bring your dough together. If it's not quite coming together, add a bit more water. It should come together as a bit of a shaggy dough. It's going to be a little bit sticky. If it's too sticky, add some more flour. But I am quite happy with this dough. That is what it looks like now. Now, you've got to knead this for about 10 minutes. If you have a stand mixer with a dough hook, do it for 5 minutes on a low setting. If you are like me and you want to remove all the stress from your week, just get your hands and give this a really good knead for about 10 minutes until it is smooth and stretchy. I've been kneading my dough for 10 minutes and now it's no longer sticky. In fact, it's soft, it's smooth, it's stretchy, it's squidgy, it's perfect and ready now to be left to rise. You're going to place it in a bowl, cover the bowl with some cling film, and you want to leave it to rise for about an hour to 2 hours till it's doubled in size. This will very much depend on how hot your house is. So if you've got a really cold house, put this in the hottest room you can find, or maybe in a very, very, very low temperature oven so that it can rise to double in size. Okay, so my dough has been rising for about an hour and a half. Let me just show you, it is now doubled in size. Step 1, get some boiling water on the go. You're going to need this. Step 2, set your oven at 200 degrees Celsius. Step 3, knock back the dough, really simple, just give it a good punch, and then pull it out, and just give it a bit of a knead. I'm going to show you 2 methods to making bagels. Now, these bagels are not going to look perfect because, well, you're not exactly master bakers, in which case, you know, who spend years perfecting their craft, but these will be good enough and they will taste really quite yummy. So, there's enough dough, as I said, for about 6 to 8 bagels. So, step 1, roll out your dough into a bit of a sausage, which will enable you to get the bagels. Method number 1, get a small ball of dough, roughly the size of a small tennis ball, large golf ball. Get your hand and cup it over the dough and just give it a bit of a roll. Can you see? And what's going to happen, there's no flour on my work surface whatsoever. If it's sticking, then your dough probably isn't risen enough. And just roll it round and round and round, releasing the pressure. And this should get you, hopefully, a really tight ball. Can you see? Now, dip your hand in some flour. Poke your finger through the middle of the ball. And slowly wiggle it around. And the hole will get bigger. You want it to be a good 2 to 3 fingers wide. How simple is that? Now place it onto a piece of parchment paper and leave it there as you prepare the others. That's method number 1. Method number 2, just slightly harder I think, is get your ball and give it a good roll. You want to roll it out into a sausage, a relatively thick sausage, as if you're making challah, and then simply roll it round and connect the 2 ends, like that. So, this is the sausage version, again onto a piece of parchment paper, and this is, because I didn't show you, the finger in the hole version. I'm going to make the other 7 up, and I'll see you in a few moments. So I've made all my bagels. We're now ready to do the next part, which is to make sure that the bagel will have that really chewy outer crust. The way you do that is with a pot of boiling water. Once your water is up to a boil, turn it down so that it is now simmering. Get one of your bagels and place it into the water. If your pan is big enough, you can do 2 bagels at a time. You want to let it simmer for 1 minute on one side and then for another minute on the other side. Please try and be as gentle as possible, because this is the point where you might start to knock all the air out of your bagel. So I put 2 bagels in, I'm checking my time, a minute on one side, then a minute on the other side. Okay, so I've got my last 2 bagels currently boiling up, so we will have made 7 bagels out of the mix. I like to have sesame seeds on some of my bagels, so I'm going to do sesame seeds over a couple of the bagels, and this is the point to add the sesame seeds once they're freshly out of the water, because the hot water will make the skin a bit sticky and will enable the sesame seeds to add. I'm also going to add a few Nigella seeds just to add a little bit of a different flavour as well to a couple of my other bagels. So these, I'm going to have 2 sesame seed ones and 2 Nigella ones. The rest will be plain. How easy has this been? I know there's been different processes, but actually it is quite an easy bake to make. So to recap, you've got to make your dough. You let the dough rise, you then shape it into bagel sizes, boil them for 1 minute on either side, pop them into the oven, 200 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes, and I'll show you the finished product once they are done. So here it is, my bagel to celebrate Parshat Chayei Sara. This is a beautiful Sunday activity, so why didn't you do it on Sunday to think about the Parsha that we have just read? A bagel, so easy to make. I've shown you how easy it is. Give it a try. Let me know how you get on. Shabbat Shalom.